Welcome to the Liberating Joy in Learning podcast. I'm Brina Beckstrand, and today we'll be discussing more life experiences that help us understand learning better. Today we're talking about how mentors help us learn. Mentors offer us something new, something different than we can find on our own. They help us reach for success beyond our capacity alone because they challenge us from a perspective that is different from ours and from someone who understands the process of learning that we seek. As an advisor at our local community college, one role I play for these students is to make it as easy as possible for these students to complete the tasks required to get registered for EMS classes. There's things like immunizations and background checks and stuff, and I just want to make it as easy as possible, right?
Right.
I send them the information packet, but also, and that has a list of lots of things, right?
Right.
Not just the to-do items. But then I also send them a list of key tasks with appropriate links and the most important information they need in order to accomplish those tasks. So then I keep a file of email templates in OneNote that I can quickly find and use and modify. So I'm
Right.
sending out a lot of emails. I'm letting them know what they need to know, but also
Right.
the next thing to do,
Right.
the most important thing. This is the most important thing you need to
Right.
know. And I've had pretty good results at getting students registered. My goal isn't to do for these students what they can do for themselves,
Right.
but my goal is to make those actions that they need to do as easy to understand and act on as possible.
Right.
Like our discussion in the previous episode, we need the right kinds of challenges to help us grow.
Right.
And they don't need, when they're trying to get all of these things done, they don't need a whole packet of stuff, even if it's just in their hand, in their
Right.
face, right? They need succinct
Right.
steps of things to do
Right.
next. So what kinds of tasks do you need more information in order to complete? Do you need help in order to complete those tasks?
Right. Well, that's something that I think we should be thinking about at every level of our learning. An example for at work is we received a request for proposal from an architect that we've done a lot of work with. That's actually in the same building as we are. They asked us to put together this proposal. Me and my coworker, they sent it to both of us, so we do a lot of projects together with these guys. And I wrote back and said, yeah, we're happy to do the proposal, but all it gave us was just a survey that just had the boundary. We don't have a site plan. We don't have, what's proposed. It's really difficult for us to complete that task of putting the proposal together. We don't know how much, because we don't know what our services are going to be, what our scope is going to be. Mm-hmm. And so in my line of work, knowing what our scope is supposed to be helps me budget my time correctly and create budgets for my tasks at work. In my personal life, looking at my goal playing the guitar, I need to have the information about what the fingering is for certain notes, or what I'm working on now is strumming patterns, so I can get, so it's not strumming patterns, finger picking patterns, so I can actually sound like I'm making music instead of just doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. So those for me, that's an example of information that I need in order to complete my tasks.
Right. For me, myself, I wrote down health issues. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into, differences in opinions on how to approach
Right.
things. But I just feel like, in general, there's a severe lack of what really are my options in this case.
Right.
And so that's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
So what kinds of tasks do you prefer less information to complete? What do you want people to not guide you too much on?
Right. That's a little bit of a tougher question to answer because, in our example that we've used a lot of disc golf, there's a fine balance in when we're out with our son, and I think he does a really good job of this, of knowing how to say, hey, this is what you should be doing, mm-hmm. or instead of, hey, why don't you try this? Yeah. And so it's not that he's not giving us, or it's not that I don't want the information. I think it's more of how is that information presented for the task I need to complete.
Yeah.
And as a mentor, that's something that's a understanding that way of providing that information is, I think it's a talent. It's something. It's a skill that needs to be learned.
Yes, absolutely. For me, I don't want, when I'm reading a text, scriptures, nonfiction,
right.
I don't want anyone to tell me how to interpret it.
Yes.
I want to figure it out on my own. Just
Right.
give me the space. I will. That's where I want to be alone.
Right.
Now, if I need information, I'll ask for it. But when I'm reading something, I just want to take it at face value
Right.
and interpret it however I want. And, within reason, right? But I want to own that experience on my own. So.
Right. And it's as a mentor or finding a mentor, that is something that you need to look for to see how they're able to do that. If they're giving you that space, or if they're in front of your face pushing you and say, this is the way you need to interpret these things, that's not the proper way to do it.
Right, because there's certainly things I'm like, just tell me what to do.
Right.
And other things I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Right.
Leave me alone. Let me figure this out on my own.
Right. Now, we also need the right kind of support for these challenges that we're going through as we're learning. The whole purpose for Learning Liberated is to liberate our ability to make learning choices. Having the right information to guide our choices is just one way mentors can help us. As we were discussing different life experiences that we could use to do this podcast, one of the things with some experiences that we have been going through recently with one of our daughters, and then comparing that with the experiences that I have had as a mentor or a mentee, it brought into focus what I think is the right way to be a mentor, or maybe not the right way, but the things to look for when you're looking for a mentor, or when you are trying to be a mentor to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about a few of them, about having, giving people the space to learn, but also being there to give them the support they need when they are struggling. An example that I have in my life is when I first started out in my profession as a landscape architect. The first job I got out of school, and I was thinking about this. I had a pretty decent mentor when I was in my internship between my junior and senior year, the year that we first met.
Yeah.
It's hard to think that, but I worked for a little design build company in Salt Lake, and the guy that I worked for, he was not much older than I was, and he was a decent guy, and I learned a number of things from him, and I value it. But the experience that I was thinking of whenever anybody asked me about mentors is my first job in Arizona, when I got the job with Nash & Associates in Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a really good experience because we were forced. My boss was forced to be able, and he's passed away, so I can use his name. Pat was my boss, and he liked to have a small office. And when I first started working for him, there was myself, another guy by the name of Rob, and our receptionist. And this is my first job out of school after graduation. I was so wet behind the ears, it was laughable. I didn't know what I was doing. And within a month that I got there, the other Rob left. He got his nose bent out of shape. But the relationship I had with Pat was, he's very understanding. He challenged me enough that I could see success. I could see myself growing. But he gave me the space to grow at my own pace.
Right.
And he gave me the support that I needed. And that is, I think, what's very important with mentors, is whether you are looking for one or that you want to be one, you have to learn how to give the person the support they need, and a lot of that comes down to communication.
Right, and I think when you're thinking of mentoring somebody, a good question to ask yourself is, can I give them that space?
Right.
So, back when my kids were at home and learning lots of things from me, and I was like, oh, they should really learn how to sew, and I thought, I don't have the sanity to let them make the mistakes on the sewing machine. It just was outside of my realm. So,
right.
Yes, I did teach them some sewing things, but as far as learning what I had learned from my mom, it didn't happen because I knew it was outside of my realm to help them, to give them that space to make those mistakes.
Right.
I was beyond what I was capable of taking on at the time. So it's really important, if you don't feel like you can give somebody that space, don't choose to mentor them in that way.
Right. And the other on the flip side is, if the person that you're working with is not giving you that space,
right,
then that's the red flag that throws up and say, hey, listen, either we need to change our dynamic between the two of us, or I need to go someplace else.
Right, to learn.
To get the learning, that the support that you need.
Yes.
And so this is a little bit shorter than our last episode, but it's still very important that as you are going through your learning journey, finding the right mentor and the right mentor environment is very important.
Yes.
So that wraps up our second life experience episode. As always, if you have questions or comments, you can message us at learningliberated@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Learning Liberated Facebook group with any questions or comments. And as always, if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else that might enjoy it as well and let us know. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.